Yeah, we just talked about what makes Helios different. You were just talking about the fact that there are three elements: personal development, magic, and devotion. So maybe you could just repeat what you just said about why those things are part of Helios and how that differs from other organizations that don't have those.
When Dion Fortune founded the Light, she took her experience of the Golden Dawn that she'd been a member of, or one of the lodges of the end of the Golden Dawn era, but combined it with initially her Christian kind of principles to create the fraternity of the Inner Light as it was. Over the period of her evolution and time with the Inner Light, she became much more pagan in her views and lent much
Right.
more towards that side of things, but maintained within the Inner Light a strand of not just magic but of devotion, of whether it started out as the Guild of the Master Jesus, but it evolved more into a much more ecumenical pagan perspective, more broader than just a Christian perspective.
So beyond mystical Christianity, or would you say it was part of that?
I would say it was part of that. So initially, it probably was a mystical Christianity, but she clearly blended that with magic, and she trained as a Freudian analyst. So she also had that element of psychotherapy as part of her school. So she was the first modern time occultist, if that's the way of putting it, that started to combine the kind of elements of psychotherapy and personal development with the magical work of the Golden Dawn and the more mystical elements which originally came out of her early Christian views. When Ernest Butler trained with Dion Fortune, Ernest Butler was very definitely a mystical Christian and was in fact an ordained priest in the liberal Catholic Church. And most of the pictures of Ernest Butler show him as a dressed in a beretta and a cassock a lot of the time. So when he founded the Servants of the Light, he brought with him to the SOL that strand of devotion. I mean, he was very much a Violet Ray person, and that featured quite a lot in the early writings of the SOL training course, the original Soul first degree training. When Dolores took over the SOL from Ernest Butler in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, she brought a rather more grounded approach, I would say, to the SOL, but kept those elements of magic and devotion, although the personal development element was less emphasised, both in Ernest Butler's work and in Dolores's work. I take the magical element and the devotional element, but blend with that the personal development piece from the world of NLP. So Helios combines those three in the same way that Ina Custers with the Temple of Starlight did exactly the same thing. She took the magical work but combined the magical and devotional work with personal development, albeit in a slightly different way to Helios. So those three strands, personal development, magic and devotion, set apart the schools within the Dion Fortune tradition from the pure magical schools of the Golden Dawn, the OTO, the BOTA, and the Rosicrucians, to name the four big ones, if you like. Now, that's not to say that they don't have that, but it's to say that the focus is more on learning magic for what magic can do for you. And I would say that's the prime focus of those schools. The prime focus of Helios is a much more balanced approach of personal development, magic and devotion, and our initiatory lineage from Dion Fortune through Butler and Dolores Ashcroft and Wiki to me is a priestly initiation. It's not a straight magical one.